Hey everyone, welcome to this 58th edition of ClarITea Chat. As always, I start this session by thanking all of you for your encouragement and engagement, not just from India, but from all over the world. So today my guest had to postpone his session due to a regulatory reason. It's like, before the announcement of your annual results or your quarterly results, there is a blackout window during which time you cannot speak to the press or you can't make any public appearances. And that's why we had to go alone this time. While we were thinking of doing another AMA session, Ask Me Anything session, my team members suggested the theme of what they have seen me practice frequently, which is crisis management and problem solving. They said this is my strength because we have had so many disruptions in the ClarITea Chat, which I've been handling calmly, and that's why we thought that okay, let's dedicate this session to crisis management and problem solving. Okay, so as always, no gyan. We will pick case studies of problems and crises in my life and career. And we will reverse engineer the attitudes and approaches that I followed, and of course, learn from others. And maybe that's where all of you can get some insights. And of course, I'll answer your questions too. So, we'll pick up 3 case studies. One is when I went in for a service call when I was a service engineer, and we went there for a day for a regular checkup, and that ended up being a 6-day sort of, you can say, nightmare, one of my first ones, but some really lifelong lessons from that one. The second one is a 13-day long crisis when we upgraded our CRM. I think it was 2006, end of 2006. Around Christmas time, people were not available. Again, a set of rich and deep lessons there, which later on helped me in my journey. And of course, the trigger for this session, the ClarITea Chat disruptions and how we resolved it while you were waiting. So we'll gain some insights on also how to take a preventive approach, and we will do it in a case-based discussion. So some of the reverse engineered attitudes and approaches that you can walk away with are, you cannot change what happened, so you have to focus forward. Second, you have to keep emotions aside. You have to sharpen the logic to solve problems, and bigger the problem, bigger the crisis, lesser the emotion, sharper the logic, and more, I would say, more of your intellectual inputs are required there. Third is don't judge, understand. Don't blame, take accountability. Don't crib, escalate. Okay, and we will see how these come out in the case studies. So we'll learn from these 3 case studies. Do feel free to chime in with your questions and comments. But before I go ahead, I would request our audiences to share their name and where they are joining from in the comment box on LinkedIn and YouTube. I can't see LinkedIn here. I only see what's happening on LinkedIn when you share in comments. So I get a one-way feed of comments from LinkedIn or YouTube here. So meanwhile, let's see who are the early joinees here. As always, Sumit is there to welcome everyone. And we have LinkedIn user. Good evening, sir, and everyone. I can't see a name, so if you can put your name as well. I think it's a privacy setting, so the same thing Vijay also has. But Vijay sir always mentions his name because he knows that problem. Thank you, Vijay sir, for joining today. So, and of course, like, if any one of you would like to come aboard and share an experience live with the audience, please share in a comment and my team will share a link with you to come live with me. Okay, so let's start with the first one. I've got some interesting stuff for you today. So let me share my screen with you. Okay, so you can see, let me put it in the presentation mode, in the slideshow mode, yes. Okay, so this was the context. You can see I was somewhere deep inside Andhra Pradesh, closer to Chennai and Tirupati, actually, in a place called Prodatur that you can see here where my mouse is, right? And we were servicing, we had gone there to service the Tata Hitachi excavators as part of Tata Motors construction equipment service team. Now, this was supposed to be a one-day checkup job, and what happened? And I had gone sort of as an understudy to one of my service engineers. His name is NP Singh, and what we found as we were doing the checkup was that we found some silvery stuff on in the oil, and immediately he said, "Oh, this seems to be like cancer of the machine." So we used to call it cancer because if there is metal that comes in the hydraulic oil, it will get circulated with the oil, and it will actually rub off on each and every precision component out there, and right from your cylinders to walls and everything, and it will destroy everything. So as soon as you see that, you have to actually dismantle the entire hydraulic circuit, take out each and every component, and clean up everything. It's called a system cleaning. Now, system cleaning typically gets detected in these service calls, and then it takes an entire week to do it. So NP said, "Lakhna, अब हमें system cleaning करना पड़ेगा." And this was my first time. I was like a newbie service engineer. Said, "How much time will it take?" He said, "5-6 दिन तो लगेंगे." And I said, "Boss, we have our list of service calls, and we have a busy 15 days. What will we do with those?" And that was my first life lesson. He said, "आप जिस काम के लिए आए हैं, उसका समय आप नहीं फिक्स कर सकते, उसमें कितना लगेगा, तो जितना समय लगेगा उतना उसे देना पड़ेगा." So when you have come for some work, and you cannot decide the time that work will take. Whatever time that work takes, you will have to dedicate it to it. You will have to satisfy the customers, service it, and before you look at anything else. So that was my first big lesson, that focus is everything. When you are out there, when a crisis hits you, it doesn't announce itself with how much time it will take, how much resources it will take. When it hits you, you dig in your heels and you solve it. So, well, we left everything else, sent a message to the head office saying that, we'll be busy here for the next 6 days. There's a system cleaning job. Found a hotel, got diesel, air compressor, the whole works in the first day, and then second day onwards, pipe by pipe, motor by motor, wall by wall, started taking out everything, and in a very systematic manner, finished the entire system cleaning for the next 5 6 days. Life lesson: when a crisis hits you, it doesn't tell you how much time it will take, how much efforts it will take. So recognize it and get ready right away. Okay. So that was the first one. Any comments, any observations from anyone? Please chime in, and we'll discuss. Okay, now let's go to the second one. Okay. Now this was a typical technology crisis. We had upgraded our CRM after almost a year of effort. We went live on 17th of December, and one of the components which used to generate the customer facing documents couldn't take that load, couldn't scale up, and we had a crisis because we now cannot generate documents for the customers. Some of the things that hit us were that it was around Christmas time, 17th of December, so a lot of global support folks had started going on vacation. Well, I think the first day just went in, even sizing up the problem. It was like the second instance where a big crisis hit without announcing itself, and without telling how much time it will take. So I saw for the first day, we immediately created a crack team, 3 of us. The other 2, I tried to invite them for this session, but they had something or the other, so they haven't been able to join me. Of course, it was a bigger team. So we first set up that entire response mechanism. We sort of programmed our EPABX in such a way that all 40 extensions on the floor could take those calls and tell the customer what's happening. We set up on the pillars, we set up some printouts, with some red, green, yellow marks in terms of how the system is functioning. And then we started lining up the support with the product guys. It was definitely a product issue. And as we all know what happens when you talk to the support folks, they start immediately, as soon as you put something on their bucket, they start putting it back into your bucket. They'll make a suggestion, put it back on your bucket. You do something, put it back on. So it was going on for a while, and then after some time, I took charge and I said, listen, this is not going to happen. And we also saw one of the things that these recommendations keep coming back. Change this value to this one. See what happens. Okay, we do that. Nothing happens. We give a feedback. Then they'll say, okay, take another parameter. Change this value to this much. What happens? Then the third parameter, and then afterwards it again comes back to the first parameter. So yeah, that was my first-hand experience of the product support. I am not sure how much it had changed. The whole tendency to putting the ball back on the customer's side in terms of to stop the clock. That is when I deep dive into what is this support process and why is these tendencies coming, and then I kind of figured out the whole thing, and we said, okay, we need to do something about it. So what did we do? We actually to curb this tendency of going around the mulberry bush and putting the ball back in our court with recommendation after recommendation, we created a simple Excel sheet, and we started putting at what time on which day at what time. There was a suggestion from the support, product support, what parameter they asked us to change, what was the existing value, what was the new value, and what was the impact and observation. And as we were continuously on calls with them, every day 10 to 15 recommendations, we immediately started seeing a pattern, and we started publishing it back to them that, hey, this is what you're doing. And well, I think that kind of exposed the entire game. And let's understand, there's nobody playing it deliberately to put you in trouble, but that's how the support is set up, that they are always trying to put the ball back in your court. This is one of the dirty underbellies of technology world and technology support. So we created a rigorous process, as you can see on the screen on the right side. We took accountability. We refused, downgrading the priority. We escalated, but we remained logical as to why we are asking. It was not like, no, I'm in trouble. No, it's not I'm in trouble. It's the organization is in trouble. This is the impact, and this is why we will not reduce the priority, and activated all our global contacts, raised it right up to the chairman's level. And I got a contact right at the headquarters, with whom I was having a call on a daily basis. But the good thing is that, by inventing this process of Excel process, we were able to create a complete trace of every single action we were taking during the crisis, and what was the impact that was having. And it not only gave us the insights or the data points to understand what's happening at a very, very micro level, but it also gave the product support and everyone who was involved in this crisis a very, very granular level data in terms of when did you touch what system and what happened, right? So we invented our own process to increase transparency, and this kind of then helped. In a few days it helped pinpoint as to what was going wrong, where was, let's say, an action working, not working, etc., etc. And then I think a lot of vacations were cancelled, but we got the solution. But it lasted about 13 days. I think together, three of us at least, we spent at least 15-hour days during those times. But there was another thing that we also did, again, from a traceability and from a, I would say, accountability point of view. We had this release process. So we started actually doing a daily release. So here was how our days went. 8 o'clock in the morning, I used to be woken up by a call from West Coast. I would get an update on what's happening in terms of addressing our crisis. I would give an update from my side, any highlights. And then maybe by 10 o'clock, I'll reach office, and the whole day, the crisis management will start, taking different actions, trying out different things, experiments, and keeping a log of everything. What did we do? What did we do? When did this system went down? When did that server went down, etc., etc. At a very, very micro level logging, and then updating that in the Excel sheet. By around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, things will we'll get a little bit of relief, and which is when we would start putting those, what you call, notepads into Excel. Then I would prepare an update between 9 and 10 for the entire global audience, that, hey, this is how the day went, and this is today's Excel, these 20 actions and all of that. And then we would have some actions which were more like, you had to take a system downtime or a system restart for those, which were more like, which would require bigger changes. And this is something, where we had to, where we created change requests between after 10 o'clock at night, created a daily release. So every day we would put a release out there. Even those change requests and what we were doing there, etc., they were also, plugged back into our updates. So we created a very, very micro level, data to keep everyone updated and to bring everyone on the same plane. So the rigor of the process is tested during the crisis. So the first thing when I said, no, you know what, we are making a change to the production system, we have to do a release. And we're like, do we do a day release? I said, yeah, we will do a daily release. And we did it for 13 days, every day, one release. Some of the, some of you would have been on the other side. I can see Sunil there. Sunil, I think you were on the other side that time. But this is what was happening, and this is how we were trying to address the crisis. Okay, so before I go to the next case study, let me see. I can see a lot of people here. Let me stop sharing and let me start pulling you guys in. Okay, so I can see the Tatre from Oman. I can see Nitin Ingoley from Genders. Hi, Nitin. Hey. Hi, Satya. Sats, this time from Hyderabad. Looks like you have come on vacation. Great to see you here. I see Sunil Punjabi. Hi, Sunil. As I said, you were on the other side. Hi, Rakesh. Good evening. Okay, so here comes a mechanism. Here comes a question from SAT. So, what frameworks did you use for risk identification and management? Oh, great question, Satya. So, I mean, some of these things are really, no one wants to face a crisis like this. So, some of my learnings on how to manage risk actually came from these incidences. So we typically used, a probability and impact type of mechanism. That means you list down all your risks. What is a risk? It's like anything that can go wrong in the enterprise. Right? You may have a network outage, you may have a data center outage, you may have any kind of things going wrong, like you may have riots, etc., etc. And then you start assigning an impact on it. Okay, so what is going to be the impact if this happens, right? Is it going to be a locational impact? It is going to be an organization wide impact, or what is the impact on the, and this is from a business point of view. And the second is like, what is the probability of that impact, like how frequently that can happen, right? So, and then you basically multiply these two and you come across, what can be called a heat map. So let's say if you have a score of 5, max score of 5 for probability and 5 for impact, that means a risk can have a maximum score of 25. Okay. Now let's say, something which can happen frequently and has a huge impact, let's say something at a data center level, that will have a risk score of 25. Something 4 by 4 will be 16. So it kind of, that's how you look at it. And then you start aligning the various stakeholders, including, the people who release the money based on this risk analysis. The first thing is for everyone to come to an agreement, and then comes, your investment planning and other stuff, right? Okay. So tell me if that answers your question, Satya, and I can take a follow up on that. Okay, so here is the question from Nitin Ingoley. Nitin says, do you think the CRM upgrade issue would have been well taken care had it been on cloud SaaS application? Of course, we did not have any SaaS CRMs in 2006. Good question, Nitin. See, we had done all kinds of testing, including we had also done a load testing on it. Later on, when we did a retrospective on the entire experience, we found that, that we did get some signals on a particular server component not scaling up, okay, or failing after a certain amount of load. But I think it was like, a little bit outside of your core technology stack, the reporting component, and probably, we didn't give enough heat to it. It was I can say, an oversight which happened. So now, if a server component cannot scale up, okay, and is having a load balancing issue, you can put enough amount of resources on top of that. It will not help, because we did have enough resources. We tried to throw hardware on top of software, but it didn't work. Okay, so the answer is no. It would not have helped, because hardware on top of software doesn't work if there are some serious bugs or if there is an architecture issue. Okay, so then yeah, I have Sanjay from Western Petroleum Private Limited, Silvassa. Hi, Sanjay. We have Partha. Hi, Partha. We have Prashant from Dubai. Hi, Prashant. Okay, so we have another question now from Sanjay Patil saying, how to control current situation margin, margin very thin, how to manage? Oh, good question. Yeah, the supply chain related inflation is up. Um, the manpower issues continue, and therefore everyone is struggling with the margin question. I, coming from the technology world, can only say that throw technology on your cost. So start looking at what are your major costs. Material costs you cannot help, right? Because they are determined by the market. But anything other than material cost, okay, especially your process cost, your machine cost, your power cost, your fuel cost, a lot of these costs can be optimized, can be minimized if you just bring in that PDCA methodology on it. That means, like, try to see how can I collect some data about it. Could be through different tools, IoT being the sort of low-hanging opportunity here. Yeah, look at productivity. In India, we typically tend to throw people, like the way, we have a tendency in technology to throw hardware at software. The same way we have a tendency to throw people into the process without really thinking of optimizing the process. But the situation that is happening currently are typical, I would say, triggers for us to tighten our belts and go deep into our cost structures. Look at, where is there an opportunity, and what can either a technology or a lean thinking can help me reduce the challenge, right? And of course, benchmarking also helps. You just look around your competitors who are not asking the same question and see what are they doing differently, right? Okay, so again, a follow-up question from Satya. Follow-up. So from your cumulative experience, were the outages part of identified risks, or were they edge, corner, and or black swan event? Satya, I think in this case it was a black swan event, because as I said, in preparation of this particular upgrade, we had done a significant amount of prep work in terms of bringing in, automated testing, bringing in performance testing, because we really wanted to. We couldn't. That time we had about 10,000 users on the system, and we could not really do injustice to them. So we had done a lot of risk planning, preparations, testing, and a whole lot of things. I think this particular one, I think, yes, of course, it was a bit of an outlier that nobody really thought. There are some components in our technology which you take for granted, and this was one of them. Reporting. It's like simple. Just get some data from the system, render it on a UI like a crystal report. So it was some component like that. And there you go. Whoever in their dreams thought that a simple thing, no calculations, no analysis, no significant resource requirements, some component running embedded inside an application server would stop scaling up, would not be able to take the load. Completely black swan. As I said, we did get some feelers, but again, nobody could fathom that, that is something that would hurt you in your dreams. Okay. Okay. So um, we have. Let me again share my screen. Okay. So let's move to the next one. So we had now this is this is where the trigger for this particular session came. My team telling me that this is something that you do well, and we've had many surprises, shocks, crisis, in our ClarITea chats. But thankfully, so far, none of them we have had to cancel, or we have had to say, guys, we have to raise our hands that technology refused to help us. So we have had multiple instances with LinkedIn in terms of a faulty streaming connection. Every time we have raised requests, every time we have raised support requests, but monopolistic behaviors, there's no alternative. So we haven't really had a good rigorous root cause analysis from LinkedIn as to why it didn't work. And actually they have been making changes to the technology on their side, um, multiple of them, and we have pointed it out to them that, hey, this was working when you did this, and this is not working when you did that. But I mean, we have been up against a wall. Okay, so we'll come to how we address that. There was another one that the guest laptop mic didn't work. In fact, we started this particular one about 6-7 minutes late. So we used the mobile mic. Well, we'll come to that, and we had two more of them. So let's come to them one by one. Okay. Yeah. So the faulty streaming connection with LinkedIn. Now this has hit us. As I said, this has hit us multiple times, and we haven't had a great response to our support requests. No root cause analysis. Something always the typical customer support response that hey, something would have gone wrong on your side of putting it on the streaming service, something would have gone wrong on that side. We check with them, and eventually you are left uh, figuring out is everything right with the technology world and with the digital monopolies, LinkedIn being one of them, right? I hope LinkedIn doesn't stop my account after this outrage, after my, what I'm speaking here. So, well, what can we do? So we said, you know, once we hit a go live button out there, if it doesn't go live, if we have fault with the connection, we get to know of it in the first couple of minutes. We actually looked at it as to how much time does it take for us to sort of stop that, restart that, and we said 2 minutes is a sufficient amount of time. So we created this video, which is which you see right in the beginning. And as we start this video, we immediately start looking at YouTube and LinkedIn, whether it has started streaming there or not. If it doesn't stream, we still have a bit of a time window to restart the whole thing, and still go live, and still be at 5 p.m. in front of you, despite a disruption. Okay, so that's how we start generally at 4:57 or 4:58. It's just to give you that consistent experience. The next one was a funny one, and it really took all the calm, cool, and logical thinking to come to this. So now the guest can. So we generally connect with the guest at about 4:45. We check out everything, lighting, sound quality, video quality, network quality, etc. So there's a 15-minute time we take, and during those 15 minutes, we figured out that the guest cannot hear. The guest can hear us, but we cannot hear the guest because his laptop mic was not working. Okay, so very senior guy, CEO, author, and we were like almost close to do we have to cancel this? And I remember this was the New Year session. Okay, this was 1st of January, and there were some bad omens associated with ClarITea Chat not happening on the 1st of January. So we were in touch on a WhatsApp call, and then I suddenly said, I said, sir, let's see whether you and I can remain on the WhatsApp call, but also go live with the streaming. Okay. So here is what we did. We created some sort of a loop here where his uh, his WhatsApp, his phone speaker was off, the mic was on, his mic was anyway not working, but his laptop speaker was on. And on my side, I could hear his voice on my I could hear his voice on my phone. Okay, so which I kept next to my laptop, and his voice was coming through my phone to the audience. Okay, and I had, of course, my mic and this one on, right? Mic and speaker on, so he could hear my voice on his laptop, but his voice was coming. So we created this sort of a loop, and this was like around the time we were about to go live, and it just took all the I would say logical thinking and just connecting the dots and not really being so worried about going live. And these are like the takeaways we would come towards the last slide as like how do we solve these problems, how do we solve these crises as they hit you. Okay, so so this was, I would say, the most tricky one, managing a ClarITea Chat with 4 different devices, 2 laptops and 2 mobile phones. Okay, there was another one, there was a fading daylight. This was my chat with, this was in February, so the days were smaller, and around 6:15 the daylight started fading, and I was in a place where I couldn't really have any additional lights and all. So, so I just while this I remember the chat with Mr. Uppal. So while Mr. Uppal was talking, I just switched on my mobile torchlight, and I just started adjusting it in a way that my face could be visible. So that worked. And yeah, there was another one where everything was absolutely fine. There was the connection was great. We couldn't find anything wrong, and then still there was a lot of lag in the video, and we started checking off one by one. Okay, is this faulty, is this faulty, is this faulty, is this faulty? And when nothing else came, we simply cleared the browser cache, and it started working. So couldn't really point my finger to anything else, and that was the last thing we could think of, right? So here are the takeaways from so here are some of the takeaways. Okay, so first one is you cannot change what happened. We have to focus forward. So in each of these cases, right, the first one in the field, the second one, when CRM crisis hit us, or when the ClarITea Chat disruptions happen, there's nothing in our hand. I mean, what has happened has happened. So we have to sharpen our focus on what we need to do, right? The second thing is that keeping emotions aside and sharpen the logic to solve problems. Now, in each of these cases, there's somebody to blame. Okay, like for example, there's like a product component to be blamed. There's support to be blamed, for putting us around for taking us around the mulberry bush. And in this case, there's LinkedIn to be blamed, there's StreamYard to be blamed, there's Chrome to be blamed. But no, I mean, we have to keep emotions aside. We have to say, hey, we have to solve the problem. We're not going to blame anyone. We're not going to crib to anyone, and we just need to sharpen the logic. All that we have learned, all that we have experienced, whatever. So we have to bring in all of this, and for that, you have to completely keep the emotions aside. The moment you bring in emotions, or the moment you start blurting out, I think somewhere the focus gets lost. It kind of creates a mental distraction. So that's just a personal experience, and please share if there's another way that you can suggest people to handle it. The third one is very, very important. It is, I call it, don't judge, understand. Don't blame, take accountability. Don't crib, escalate. So let's go one by one. When I say don't judge, understand. Now there is a support process. You look at any of the technology giants, right from your Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, name it. Each of them have a support process, which is a cookie cutter process. Okay, I mean, is there a benefit in judging that process and cribbing about that process, or blaming that process? No. When a crisis hits you, it hits you, right? Then all you can do is to understand what their process is, and to figure out, how do I work best within that process. Now there is sometimes not only one process. Like in this case, there is a global support process. There's some L1 support, sitting somewhere, who has seen from his seniors, and who knows that, how to keep putting the ball back into the customer's court, by asking some silly questions and all that. Yeah, you have to have one leg of your process attacking that. That means, every time you hear a clarification from them, you give it back to them. And if it's a repeat clarification, you also push back hard, saying that you asked that question, I answered that question 2 hours back, right? So understand how the process works. There's another process, which generally the technical account management process, or a more senior level process that you always have, which is like your account manager, right? So we have to activate that process also during these problems and crises. Now, when I say take accountability, means don't think that somebody else is going to solve your problem. It's your problem, it's your crisis, you got to solve it, right? So you have to take accountability, and you cannot tell to your customers and to your stakeholders, you cannot say that somebody else did not do his job properly, or someone's support is process is not working properly. The accountability remains with me, whether it's ClarITea Chat, whether it was the CRM crisis, or anything else, right? So, like for example, in that CRM crisis, you saw how we took accountability by creating a Excel template which would record every single action we were taking to in our effort to resolve the crisis. Every single thing that we were being suggested, every single change request that we were pushing out there, even code changes, etc., etc. Okay, and thereby taking charge of the entire process. Now the charge is not with the support, is not with the partner, it is with me. I control the process, and you being on the ground, you're the best person to control the process, to keep the data and keep it data driven, right? And yeah, finally, don't crib, escalate. So we didn't crib. We escalated right up to the highest level. We made sure that our partner escalates to their highest level, and and the entire support system gets activated. Christmas or no Christmas, right? Now the next one is like always. Now these are some of the preventive actions, which is always do a prep rehearsal. So a lot of our ClarITea Chat crisis or problems we have been able to solve in time, because we are on this bridge which is being broadcast to you 15 to 30 minutes earlier than 5 o'clock. And that allows us to, you know, what do you call, like, check all the boxes, and make sure that, if there is something not working, we are able to address it. And if there's something which is not working during, establishing that streaming connection, we address it 2 minutes before. Okay, so always do a proper rehearsal. And finally, learn TGR, TGW based improvements and checklists. So TGR, TGWs are things gone right, things gone wrong. Okay, so this has almost become a habit for us. This is the 50th, ClarITea Chat, and after every single one of them, including this one, okay, the entire team will meet on the same platform, and we will share feedback with each other. There are some team members who are watching it as audience. They will tell us about, like, the broadcast quality, the font sizes, were they all right or not, did I blabber on too long on some point, etc., etc. So we keep, like, taking feedback after every single ClarITea Chat. And over 58 ClarITea Chats, even if we have been able to make half to one improvements, per session, it is still about 30 to 60 improvements that we have made so far, right? So never underestimate the power of incremental feedback and learning, and getting and converting those into your checklist, right? Okay, so that's sort of the end of my presentation. Um, and let me see if we have any questions out here. Okay, so we do have some comments and questions. So there's one comment from Sanjay Patil, says that, okay, sir, we try very hard, come out from the situation in MSME, want scale up in our business or any particular, I will come out. Sanjay, I don't think we can answer these questions, like this, in this kind of a forum. But yeah, definitely open to have a chat outside of it, and try to understand. Of course, Um, I'm not a mechanical or factory guy anymore. I used to be 20 years back. For the first 7 years, I was a hardcore mechanical engineer, and of course, I've been losing that touch over the years in favor of technology. But definitely open to have a quick discussion and maybe connect you with the right guys. Okay, so Satya, you are the one asking all the questions today. Thank you for that. So Satya is asking, what techniques do you use to calm down and get back to the moment when you are faced with crisis? That's a great question, Satya. So Satya, a couple of weeks back, I posted one video about this too shall pass. Okay. Now that's a very deeply philosophical video, but I must say that I always follow it. Okay. Number one is, what happens, happen. What happened, happened. I simply keep it aside. I mean, I don't try to go too much into it, in terms of blaming it or why it happened, and what shit, and all kinds of blaming, and sort of using bad words for those. I mean, I say, okay, hey, this happened, let's move on. Okay, so the first one is to look forward. Okay, so focus forward. The second one, of course, is like, take a few deep breaths and try to solve the problem. So not saying no to the problem. See, mostly humans face those problems because we are the ones who have been given the brains to solve it. So any problem for me is an opportunity for us to use our brains. So when you look at it positively, right? So they are an opportunity for us. And third one is, as I said, you know, just use logic, focus, and know that this too shall pass. Now, when this passes, Either I would have done something really, I would have given my best to let it pass positively in my favor, or I would give up, or I would get angry, frustrated, whatever. But it will still pass, right? So so let's do the best to make it pass in my favor. And even if it doesn't pass in my favor, I shouldn't have a regret that I didn't do my best, right? So as you know, some of those things that you saw on the last slide, keep emotions aside, sharpen the logic, don't judge, don't blame, don't crib, and just focus on solving the problem. So that focus and keeping the emotions aside is the most important thing. Okay, on that note, I have one more comment here from Abhishek. Thanks for setting it up. Hey, thanks, Abhishek. Thanks for the kind words. And on that note, I have no more comments or no more questions. So, again, one of the rare times that we are finishing before time. So, thank you, everyone, our audience, for engaging, for asking questions, and for listening to this. And to all those who are watching the recording, thank you to all of you too. I know it's a Saturday. Please enjoy your remaining family time over the weekend. We'll be back on next Saturday, 23rd July. Till then, bye bye. Enjoy your weekend.